Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the cryptoverse. Today we're going to talk about Polkadot and a realistic price prediction for this market cycle. If you guys like the content, please subscribe to the channel. Let's go for 200,000 subscribers, so make sure you hit the subscribe button, give the video a thumbs up, also check out the Telegram channel, which you can find a link to in the description below. So we're going to be looking at a realistic price prediction for Polkadot. We're going to be using historical data, historical moves. Let's go ahead and jump in. Okay, so the first place that we like to start is just looking at the entire asset class as a whole and looking to see where is our current market capitalization of the entire cryptocurrency asset class. We can see that we're coming in at almost 1.6 trillion. Okay, the current market cap of Bitcoin is less than 1 trillion at 956 billion. Polkadot right now is at 32 billion. We did a video about a few days ago now, and it was on Cardano, and we did a realistic price prediction for Cardano, and we ultimately came to somewhere between $5 to $10. Seems somewhat reasonable, and that's not to say that it can't go above $10, but I think that sort of range would be reasonable for the duration of this market cycle, somewhere around $5 to $10. By the way, if it were to go to $10, which I do think is possible this market cycle, it would put the market capitalization of Cardano at approximately 360 billion. Now, you might think that that sounds somewhat far-fetched, considering that the market capitalization of Bitcoin is only 956 billion, so that would put the ADA valuation at 1/3 of that of Bitcoin's. However, the implication of ADA going to 300 billion would also likely imply that Bitcoin's going much higher. So a rudimentary way to look at this is what if we just scale it the same way? DOT, in the same way that ADA could go up approximately 10 more X before I could really start to see it being spent in terms of the sell pressure being way too much for the duration of that cycle, we might assume that another 10X could be on the cards for Polkadot for the entire duration of the market cycle. Now, one thing we've always said is that you should expect corrections along the way. Okay, it's not just going to go up monotonically. If you look at the valuation of Ethereum last cycle, if we go back and look at what Ethereum did, we know that it had several 40% corrections, 60% corrections even last market cycle. We can see that. This one was a 70% correction almost. Here we had another decent correction. From this point down here was another 50% correction. We had a lot of those with Ethereum last market cycle, and it did not stop Ethereum from going up well over 1,000x during that market cycle. Now, one thing to consider is that back then the market capitalization of Ethereum was in the tens of millions, and so it was much easier for it to go to, it's much easier for Ethereum's market cap to go to approximately 100 billion back then, because the market cap started at, say, 24 million. And what I mean is that it was a lot easier for it to go up, say, 1,000x, because it was starting at such a low market capitalization. With a lot of these coins, you might think that, okay, well, can they not do a 1,500x like Ethereum did? Well, for instance, DOT was in heavy accumulation mode, as we discussed on this channel, between $3 to $6. And the current market capitalization of Polkadot is approximately 32 billion. So DOT arguably started this market cycle at approximately 3 billion in terms of the market capitalization of Polkadot. So it started it approximately 2 orders of magnitude higher than where Ethereum started it the prior cycle. Okay, that's one thing to consider. Now, so the first way we look at this is we could say, okay, well, we could imagine DOT going up another 10x. Okay. If the market capitalization as a whole of the entire cryptocurrency asset class were to go to 10 trillion, then for DOT to go up 10x, it's actually scaling faster than a lot of the rest of the market capitalization, because it would be going up 10x, but the entire market cap would not necessarily be going 10x. But the reason we pick the projects we do is because we expect them to outperform a lot of the other cryptocurrencies, and that's exactly why we chose them, is because we think they will outperform. Now, something interesting, if you look at the .USD valuation, it looks eerily similar to the Ethereum USD valuation when Ethereum launched back in 2015, 2016. If you look at, say, the 20-day moving average after launch, Ethereum just systematically climbed up the 20-day moving average, coming back to the 20-day moving average for support. It eventually trended sideways for a year before continuing along the way, And looking back, everyone would consider this to be one bull market for the most part for Ethereum. Okay, so for DOT, it also looks really similar to this. Look at this chart right here for Ethereum, and then look at how it compares to DOT. Look at how similar these two charts are for DOT and Ethereum. Very similar charts, okay? So at some point, though, Ethereum was unable to continue holding above the 20-day moving average, and then it ended up trading sideways for about 1 year before continuing on its run. So this is what we're talking about. We don't exactly know how long the market cycle is going to be. I do think it's going to be a lot longer than where we currently are. I do think time is on our side, but you have to be prepared for cooldown phases. You have to be prepared for trending sideways for months at a time. There's a lot of places you can earn interest on your Polkadot tokens, and so if you have no interest in selling them right now, like me, then you could just earn interest. And so that if you do go sell them in the future, at least you are earning some nominal amount of interest, and therefore you have even more DOT tokens that you can sell. You might assume that, oh, it's not worth your time, and maybe it's not, but you have to consider that if the valuation of DOT were to go up another 10x, then you probably will wish you had had some of that interest, because then the valuation of that interest you had earned would have also gone up 10x, depending on exactly when you earned it and when the 10x move came. Okay, so this looks eerily similar, right? The Ethereum USD valuation at launch looks similar. Now, the other thing we've discussed is how similar the DOT Bitcoin valuation at launch looks compared to the Ethereum Bitcoin valuation at launch. Look how close they are. Okay, they both launched in August. DOT launched 5 years after Ethereum. After launching, DOT and Ethereum both bled against Bitcoin for the duration of Q4. DOT until the end of December was down 70% against Bitcoin, and then if you look at Ethereum's valuation, or sorry, this is Ethereum. Ethereum dropped 70% by the end of December. It dropped lower, but by the end of December it was down 70% or so. DOT from up here dropped also approximately 70% or so by the end of December. Very similar moves for DOT Bitcoin and Ether Bitcoin. And then they both did the exact same thing. They both rallied back up to where they started, where they launched. They both launched in August, bled against Bitcoin in Q4, both rallied in December. It's literally just separated by 5 years. Okay, literally separated by 5 years. They came back up to this level in January and then broke through in February. Ethereum broke through decisively in February. DOT so far broke through decisively in February. From that point, Ethereum was able to rally several hundred more percent after getting to this level. So it rallied another 500% against Bitcoin before cooling down by approximately 80% against Bitcoin over the next year, an 80% drop. So if history is any indication as to what could happen with Polkadot, it's that maybe if we're lucky, Bitcoin will hold these levels at 51K, 52K. We'll get a nice altcoin season. If that were to happen and we were to see something at all similar to what we saw for Ethereum, and we got a several 100% move of the DOT Bitcoin valuation from this line, we could be looking at a much higher priced Polkadot token. If the valuation of Bitcoin were to stay constant and DOT were to go up another 200% or so, we could be looking at a $100 DOT. You might say, well, why don't you do it 500%? Remember, the valuation of Ethereum's market capitalization back then was a lot lower. It was in the tens of millions to hundreds of millions or so. So it's a lot easier for Ethereum back then to go up than it is for Polkadot, okay? So let's be conservative and say maybe Polkadot is able to have a surge sometime over the next few weeks, maybe the next few months if we're lucky. Maybe it's able to go to a $100 DOT, okay? Now, I'll be the first to say that I cannot give you short-term price predictions that you can take to the bank. It's not financial advice. It will depend on Bitcoin. If Bitcoin crashes to the 20-week moving average tomorrow, then likely DOT's not going anywhere but down. But if Bitcoin doesn't crash down to the 20-week moving average for another few weeks or a month or two, then it could be long enough for DOT to have a major surge against Bitcoin before calming down over another several months, maybe even a year, before having yet another surge, okay? So we have to consider that possibility, and the only reason we're considering it is because of how similar the DOT Bitcoin launch looks compared to the the Ether Bitcoin launch a long time ago. So note that Ethereum trended up until March 12th, okay? Ethereum trended up against Bitcoin until about mid-March, and then it dropped until basically throughout the rest of the year until the following December. Okay, it had some other surges, right? It dropped down in March and April, and then in late April and early May, and even going into mid-May, it had another surge back up. But generally, the trend was down 80% over the year of 2016. Okay, and then it rallied again in 2017, and then again in early 2018. So we have to consider the similarities here between Ethereum Bitcoin and Bitcoin, and then USD and also Ethereum USD, because look how similar they are. So if we were to continue to follow this line of thinking, if DOT were to say go up to $100 or something, and then cool down for a few months at the very least, maybe even up to a year for all we know, doesn't mean you can't keep earning interest. You keep fighting the good fight. As we've showed before, it seems like time is on our side. The longer it takes us to trend up, I think up this way, then I think the higher the entire cryptocurrency market capitalization will go. So if we trend up earlier rather than later, it won't go up as high. The longer it takes us to go up, I think the higher the entire asset class as a whole will fly. Okay? So that would get us, say, a local price prediction. Maybe we're lucky and able to go to $100 DOT plus or minus a few dozen dollars. Right? What's a few dozen dollars among friends? That would be a very bullish scenario, assuming that Bitcoin does not go into price discovery mode necessarily and is able to just chill out at 51K or so, giving other coins the opportunity to make major moves against Bitcoin. This is what we would like to see. Now, from there, if the Bitcoin valuation were to bleed back down, let's take a look at what happened to Ether USD. So despite the fact that Ether Bitcoin dropped significantly, if we take a look at Ether USD from March 14th to say the bottom, it was, say, a 60% drop. So it's possible that we could see DOT go to $100 and then maybe come back down to $40 and then go on another surge later on if it were to continue emulating what Ethereum did. And we're also taking into account the fact that it likely will underperform Ethereum because the market capitalization is a lot higher. So that would say get us, maybe it goes up to $100 and then we scale back for a while. And then we could go on another surge where it maybe goes up another 10x later on. Okay. And if it goes up another 10x from, say, a correction that takes us back to, say, 30, 40, 50 bucks, then we could be looking at a several $100 Polkadot token, which does that make sense in light of the market cap? Well, again, yeah, it does, because it could take us up to a modest $300 to $500 billion market capitalization. And you might say, well, that seems kind of high considering if Bitcoin is at 956 billion. But if that were to happen, we're assuming that Bitcoin's market cap in and of itself is probably above 2 trillion, maybe somewhere between 2 to 4 trillion. So if Bitcoin's valuation is between 2 to 4 trillion, then it seems reasonable that one of the main contenders to Ethereum, Cardano and Polkadot, that both of them could go up to, say, several hundred billion. So I think this is realistic for the market cycle, but don't be fooled thinking that it has to go straight there. We're likely going to have significant corrections along the way. People are going to probably panic sell. They're probably going to get scared. And that's not necessarily, if you've made a lot of money and you just want to get out of the market and take your profits and run, I'm not going to blame you. I've always said, you're not going to go broke taking profits at least. Okay, so remember, everyone has different goals. Some people want to go buy a house with their crypto profits, pay off their mortgage. Though a lot of the times when people do pay off their mortgage, sometimes I wonder why they don't just set up a low risk account and then just use the interest to pay their mortgage while keeping the principal. I think that would make more sense than just paying the mortgage off, especially when you can just get so low interest rates right now, 2 to 3%. Maybe that's just me. I don't know. But what I would say is let's follow this one step at a time. I'm very bullish on DOT this market cycle. I do think it will stand the test of time. I think it's going to be right there neck and neck with Cardano for probably a lot of the market cycle. They'll probably flip-flop back and forth quite frequently. They've already done it several times this market cycle. They'll probably keep doing it for a while. So to sum it up, I could see Polkadot going to several $100s, maybe somewhere between $300 to $500 by the end of the market cycle, but I do not think the end of the market cycle is going to come anytime soon. I think it's going to be a while, so buckle up. It'll probably be a bumpy ride. Feel free to start earning interest on your DOT. Go outside, go do something. Time is on our side. We have nothing but time. If you guys like the content, please subscribe to the channel. Give the video a thumbs up. Let's go for 200,000 subscribers. Check out the Telegram channel, which you can find a link to in the description below. And remember, we have the premium list altcoin season sale. You can find a link to that in the description below. You get access to weekly reports and videos, the Telegram alerts channel, the risk dashboard, the Telegram or the TradingView, the Telegram chat room, the TradingView indicators, the premium only live streams, and more. We'll keep it running for about 6 or 7 more days. So if you want to lock in the lower rate for the duration of the market cycle, make sure you do that in the next week. Otherwise, subscribe to the channel at the very least. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'll see you next time.